I had just gotten home from a shift at the hospital that went from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., and my head hurt a little from not getting enough sleep. Someone had to call in just in time to say he couldn't work the night shift, which meant we were short-staffed. That's why I worked extra hours. That day, all I wanted to do was sleep all day. One thing that was wrong with that plan was that I had agreed to check on my girlfriend Nora's aunt. Her aunt had been told she had cancer and was getting care at home. She saw her most of the time, and when they had to, they came to the hospital where I worked. For Nora, that was her best aunt and the person she was closest to besides her aunt's visiting maid. I thought it was bad for her mental health. So, whenever she asked, I gave her some space. It was her wish to have some nights by herself to clear her mind, and I would gladly give it to her. At those times, for nights a week, we wouldn't call each other's lines because we didn't see the point in staying away from each other just to talk on the phone. Although not talking to each other was hurting our relationship, I had no choice because Nora's sleep was always interrupted when I got there a few minutes after 6 o'clock in the morning. 2 sets of keys for the back door were lying on the kitchen table. I took one of them. This was so I could sneak into the house without waking her up. For the record, I live in a housing area that doesn't have a fence. On all 4 sides of my building, there are lawns and asphalt roads that separate the buildings. I parked in the front driveway because work was going to start on my garage and basement soon. Someone told me to look at the grass behind the house because someone had driven their car right into it as I walked to the back of the building. I didn't understand how someone could be so careless as to drive off the tar road and into the grass, even getting close to the building. To begin, I put the key in the lock and turned it, but it wouldn't move. This only meant that there was a different key in the other side's lock. We didn't use the back door very often, so it was strange. I told myself, if there's a key on the other side, the door might be open. When I pulled on the handle, the door flew open, which surprised me. Why would Nora want to take the back door for any reason? I asked myself out loud. Could there have been a visitor? Drake, her brother, was the only person I knew who might stop by. We hired him to fix my basement because he worked for the civil building company. Drake wouldn't even drive up to my backyard, let alone use the back door to get into my house. After getting it out of my head, I quietly shut the door so as not to wake Nora, who was probably already asleep. But there was more to come. By muscle memory, I chose a strong cooking smell that I knew. It smelled like someone I knew, like Frank, a coworker who hadn't been there. I could smell it stronger as I went up the stairs and over to the second floor. But I knew my mind was pulling a fast one. It was almost impossible for Frank to be at my house at the same time that we were to be at work. It was not possible. I knew his girlfriend and he was a nice guy. He had only been to my house once before, and that was more than a year ago. Also, I wasn't sure if he was really close to Nora for him to want to come over to my house. I knew who Nora would call in an emergency. There were times when they saw each other, like when Nora took her aunt to the hospital. It was the first time in my life that I thought Nora might be cheating on me. I quickly pushed the thoughts away as I walked to the door to my bedroom. When I got close to bed, I could hear water running in the bathroom. All I wanted to do was sneak in and take the day off. Nora was taking a bath, which wasn't too strange. But wasn't that too early for Nora? Every morning, I would ring the front doorbell while she walked downstairs, still sleepy, to get the door. That way, she would be shocked to see me in the bedroom. Some of me wanted to throw myself into bed and fall asleep, but I knew I had to put my scrub clothes in the water washer first. The laundry machine was in the guest bathroom at the other end of the hall, so I grabbed an extra towel and went there. But it wasn't the washing machine that caught my eye. It was a pair of other people's boxers. I freaked out for a second. I never, ever wore those boxers. I tried to clear my mind and ignore the facts that were right in front of me. Nora was done using the bathroom when she heard my footsteps coming down the hall. Soon, the door to her bedroom flew open, and she was standing there with her towel around her. She cried out, "Sebastian! How and when did you come home through the chimney?" I said it with a fake smile on my face but a million questions in my head that needed answers right away and could make or break our relationship. "Hold on, honey. Who owns this?" I asked in a relaxed way while holding up the boxers for her to see. She let out a gasp of shock as she tried to gather her thoughts. At this point, I knew I had lost the mate. When my heart broke that minute, it had never broken like it did that minute. She said, "Oh, those. I think Drake owns them." "Dr. Drake?" "Yes, he was here last night to look at the basement and other things. I think he forgot about it after taking a shower." I told her, "Oh, that's okay," to make things easier for her. Before taking off my clothes, I quickly turned around and went into the bathroom. I turned on the shower. The answer she gave was wrong in every way. Drake was a lot bigger than the skinny boxers I was wearing. He also couldn't have come back to check out the basement because he did that yesterday while I was home during the day and I dropped him off before going to work. And finally, the scent of the cologne on that pair of boxers was strong and unmistakable. Even though everything was going on, I laughed. Could this be the reason he called in sick? Could this be the reason Nora always took time off to be alone some days and nights? How long had I been played? I was done at that point. Although I chose to break up with her, I wouldn't do so until I gave her a chance to learn. Thank goodness that moment came within a week. A few days later, I had a terrible feeling when I woke up at night. Even though my gut doesn't always tell me the truth, that night I was sure that something was wrong. I had no idea what it was. It was 4 a.m. when I checked the time. I just had a terrible feeling that something was wrong. Nora wasn't in bed or the bathroom, but her phone was on the pillow. She never left home without it, so why now? When I tried to use her phone, it was locked. I came up with the password after a lot of thought. It was hard for me to understand the chat that was left on the computer. It was saved with the name Mom as the contact. I made up my mind to do it. When I realized how much of a fool I was, my heart raced. As I entered the number into my phone, Frank's name appeared before I could finish. It matched the second time I looked. When I heard what was being said, I couldn't believe what I saw. I went downstairs in silence and down to the basement. Sure enough, as I got closer, I could hear Nora's quiet moans coming from the basement, along with a man's voice and other sounds that proved what they were doing. I was so angry I had never been that angry before. As I stood in the shadow of the front door, I felt terrible as the people nearest to me betrayed me. They were too busy to talk to me, but their clothes were already outside. After that, I had an idea. I locked the door, which was the only way in from the inside, and shut it quietly. After getting their clothes, I went to my room, took a quick shower, and left for work earlier than usual. I also took Frank's phone to work with me after finding it in his pants pocket. I then called Drake, who is Nora's brother. "Hey Drake," I asked, "do you think you and your team could start the job in the basement this morning?" "Yeah, sure," he said. I was really antsy, and sure enough, Frank didn't show up for work. He couldn't have done that. He was trapped in my basement. After 2 hours, I finally got the call I was waiting for. The brother of Nora called me and sounded like he was having a heart attack. His team found Stark, Nora, and Frank in the basement, naked. They were hiding behind a beam to avoid him and his team. I kept quiet as he talked about who his sister was and how embarrassed he felt in front of his team, which was made up of local guys who knew him and his family very well. It was loud enough for me to hear Nora screaming in pain about something. He started to say sorry a lot and said that he and his friends had thrown Frank out into the street while he was butt naked. What happened next was amazing. Butt naked Frank was arrested for public flashing, as one of my neighbors reported him. There was also news about him in his area. On the news, my coworkers and I saw him and his naked behind get caught in our lounge. He was, of course, fired and couldn't work for a long time. As for Nora, my good team made sure that the news got around town very quickly. I heard she quit her job and moved in with her folks because of the mess up. I have no idea what happened in the months that followed. It's possible that she's still living in her parents' basement and sleeping with guys behind their backs. The people I work with were able to figure out what was going on and were very sensitive, which made me feel good. I took a few days off, packed up all of Nora's things, and called her sister-in-law to ask her to come get them. When I got home one day, her stuff was gone. Like that, she was no longer in my life. She never tried to get in touch with me again. I wish I could say I cared, but I didn't. Life had a lot more to offer. OP, I'm glad everything turned out okay for you. The fact that your girlfriend did what she did is crazy. Now fate has done what it should have done, and she will pay for the rest of her life for what she did. I'm glad your brother told everyone in town about her affair so that all the guys can see who she really is. Thank you for your message. I hope you were able to find a wonderful woman who will be true to you.